Hey, you guys, it is your girl AP, and welcome back to another episode of A&J Podcast. I am your lovely host, well, half host, one of the hosts of A&J. I'm the A aspect.
The A Mike. And I'm Jay. I'm her lovely co-host. Mr. Young to some, Jay to others.
Zaddy to some of us. No, I'm just kidding. Just to the kids.
Yeah, right. But yeah, y'all, it's another episode of the A&J Podcast. We doing our part. We trying to come back at y'all with another episode.
Consistently. This is episode 5, season 2. We on it. We on
fire.
Yeah, we are.
We need to get some ad libs up in here so I can hit a button when we do stuff like that.
Book. Okay, yeah, I'll insert something on the back end.
You had the NBA Jam sound like he's on fire.
No thanks. Anyway, like we said,
she don't see my vision. She don't see my vision.
See your vision. I see your vision.
I felt the hate in that comment.
No hate. I love you.
Moving along, our audience is bored of this. We're losing sponsors.
The sponsors we don't have. Shout out to Rich and Rare if y'all ever want to be a sponsor, because mostly that's what we sip. Not tonight though.
We're starting there, so y'all can get y'all shot. But nobody can see this probably through my glass, but it says Malam and Green whiskey. These people sent me some whiskey to participate in a whiskey tasting event, and I will be traveling during the event, so I'm not going to bring the whiskey with me. So tonight I'm going to crack one of the bottles while we're doing the pod, and we'll share our interpretation of it, because this stage in life we're whiskey connoisseurs.
Basically.
Low-end whiskey connoisseurs, but connoisseurs nonetheless.
We can dream big. You know, we start small.
And maybe somebody fly will offer us some type of sponsorship one day, like Rich and Rare. Y'all can come on, or I don't know, a Maker's Mark. What's the other one? Knob Creek. You know what I mean? Buchanan's. I can rattle a couple of them off now. I enjoy a good taste from time to time.
That could have went somewhere else. But at any rate, today's episode, we're going to talk about leaning into one's femininity in their relationship and normalizing it. Shout out to my girl Lorna, System of Curves, who is forever posting on Facebook or in her stories on Instagram these types of topics that spark conversations that I really feel like we should be discussing. And this one kind of hits close to home because for a long time I was definitely the person who was like Miss Independent. I'm a tomboy. I'm strong. I'm resilient. I'm this and I'm that. That it took me probably within the last 6 years, like when my health went down, to learn how to accept being spoiled by my husband, quite honestly, and not feeling like it was a sign of weakness. And even more so, like, people will always be like, oh, you're so spoiled. And I'd be like, no, I'm not. You know, I would take it offensively. But the more I was really thinking about it the other day, and I'm like, sort of I am spoiled. There are worse things in this world to be called. What?
Finish your statement. I don't lose that thought. I like where this is going.
There are worse things to be called besides spoiled in my relationship. But I think, honestly, as a woman, but especially as a Black woman in this culture, I think the narrative of being a strong Black woman, although that was not something that was ever beaten to my head personally from my mom, it's all around us. We hear it on TV and entertainment, media, music. I grew up listening to Destiny Child tell me, all my ladies, if you're independent, throw your hands up at me. You know what I mean? Like, and so, no, like, that message was very clear. And I get why, it was being said. But I think that narrative got pushed so long, even from like men, desiring women who are strong like their mothers. You know what I mean? Like, my mom was a strong black woman, single mom. She did this and a third. Like, this pressure to perform strongly, that being soft, feminine was not in our purview. Like, if you ever see luxury commercials or the ethereal, the feminine commercials, it never includes women that look like me. It was always Caucasian women or Asian women or anybody but black women. So the idea in my head that I just need to be a strong woman, the idea of being soft, raw, vulnerable, made me feel weak. But I found recently, like, I enjoy being soft and vulnerable and spoiled, and I love it. And I don't ever want to go back to what it used to be like internally in my head, like, because my home, my relationship is my sanctuary. It's like when they say pets turn over on their backs when they feel safe because their bellies are most exposed. I feel like my belly's exposed. Like, and it's like, he's got me, you know what I mean? And it's not the worst feeling in the world. But what do you think? What is your thoughts?
Well, I think as a black woman, it probably is difficult to feel comfortable showing signs of vulnerability, because I think as black people it's difficult for us, right? Like, whether you're a man or a woman, or identify as something else, if you're black, your guard has to stay up. You have to develop a thick exterior. You have to be somewhat callous to things, because we deal with so much from society in general. I mean, not only are we dealing with challenges from outside of our culture, but we're dealing with the challenges that come from inside of our culture as well. Sometimes those challenges come from within our very own households, let alone our own families, so or our social circles. We really have a lot to combat with. It's almost like you come out the womb swinging and fighting and bobbing and weaving, when you're black. So I can understand feeling soft by being vulnerable, leaning into your femininity, as you said, giving somebody the opportunity where they could potentially hurt you deeply, by you establishing this level of trust where you feel comfortable relinquishing your control with situations. That makes sense. And our black women in general have to be strong for so many reasons, because they didn't have fathers in the household, because
I don't want to really fall into that trope or stereotype, because we hear it often, but it's not necessarily true. It's a lot of black women who have had their fathers in their households.
No, but I'm saying, I'm speaking in general, not to negate the people who have been there, but I'm just starting from the top one down in my perspective. Like, there's so many women who have had absent fathers, or fathers who were available but not always present, or baby fathers who left them holding a bag, or women who, even like back in the day, women who had to hold down the family while the husband went to war, or was the primary parent while the husband worked all day, sometimes 2 shifts, 3 shifts, or whatever. All kinds of circumstances. Like, women have had to be strong because men have been at war, or in prison, or died young, or were killed young, all kinds of stuff. So they're just had a baby by the wrong person or something like that. You know what I mean? There's so many reasons why we have seen so many examples of strong black women in our lives, both good and bad, that as men, we almost take it for granted that this is how women are supposed to be. And, as I can imagine as a woman, those are the women that you ideally want to model yourself after. Not all women are capable of that or share those same desires. Sorry. But I think it's a complicated world out there for a black woman, because you have to be, I'm not even going to say a black woman, I'm going to say a woman of color, but you're speaking as a black woman,
Oh, you're giving me that title tonight because he likes to be funny about when I'm assigned black woman versus
I
woman
wasn't
of
even
color.
going to go there, but I mean, if we want to get into the semantic subject, I mean,
just because
I use that term loosely.
I am of mixed descent.
But if we gonna go by the traditional math rules, if it's 5 or more, we gonna round up. So we gonna round up on your behalf and call you the black woman that you believe yourself to be. But moving on, that's neither here nor there. That's neither here nor there.
It's gonna be a dry night tonight in the Young household.
My train of thought there. I like
that's what happened when you cap so much.
But no cap. But yeah, I think you have those black women. Ideally, want to be those strong black women, even if they lose their way along the way.
I think that is why this is so important to talk about, because more and more we're seeing us come forward and say, I don't want to be a strong black woman. I want to be soft when I want to be, emotional when I need to be.
That's different,
no, it's not. I want to take my cape off. I love this clip. I just posted it in my stories. It's like a little song. I don't know the girl's name. And she's just like,
find her name.
I want to take my cape off. I can't save nobody. Sorry. I need to set some boundaries.
Well, hold on.
Nope. So it's so important, and I'm telling you, it's not different, because this is literally women telling you what they want.
Well,
that is not for you to change what you think it's supposed to mean.
No,
so what I'm saying is, no, we don't want to be strong black women. Like, in case you're not catching what I'm saying, there's a lot of us who don't desire to be that. We don't want to be. We want to just be able to exist and breathe and be cared for and feel safe, and not have to be strong.
Isn't it inevitable though? Because
we're trying to change that.
If you're a black woman, especially if you're a black woman who's a mother, but if you're a black woman who's in a member of this society and you have to function in any capacity of it, that strength is required. Now, you deserve the opportunity to turn it off and on, but I think if you have a job, that strength is necessary. You have to exercise it.
No, I think what I would like, and I think where most of us are saying is, strength is not going to be our identifying mark.
It does, and it
can be a component of who I am, but it's not going to be the strong black woman trope. No more. And I want us to normalize that. It's okay for us to want to be soft and emotional and not feel like it's a bad thing to do so. It's okay for us to desire pampering and being spoiled by boyfriends, husbands, mates, whatever.
But I think
those things need to be, but they're not. So so many women, when I see these
I didn't even finish my statement.
Can I finish what I was saying? So many women, if you pay attention, and I think this goes back to something I've said before, women will tell you exactly how they're feeling and thinking, and men will still translate it to be anything but what we're actually saying. And it kind of boils down to this: y'all are hearing us, but you're not listening. Speaking from the perspective of a woman who knows the weight of being a single mom or having to raise children and just being strong in the aspect of I've got a black son, got two black sons and a daughter and a black husband. I'm constantly having to worry about y'all safety and be strong and all those things. Most specifically, to a point, yes, strength has to be a component of our personality, a facet of our personality. But when we're home, it shouldn't be the first identifying mark of who we are. Home should be the place where we can be safe to take that armor off.
I agree with
And I
that.
think part of the problem is a lot of, and this is just coming from the experiences that women have shared with me, things that I've read, they don't have that safety to do so because traditionally the whole man takes care of the household thing, it's not necessarily a thing in 2022. That really just depends on your circumstances, right? We know economics has a huge impact on the ability for the man to take the lead in the household. I don't think it's as black and white as it used to be when our parents were getting married. But there's like this thing where a lot of women feel like they don't have the safety of knowing, like, if I decide to take a mental health sabbatical from my job, that my husband is going to be able to pull his weight. And that's not my personal experience, but I'm just saying that these are some of the things that come up in conversation. Or even like new moms, right? Everybody just assumes that you have this baby and you're naturally able to become maternal and all these things come naturally. It doesn't matter how much a woman has carried this baby for 10 months, 40 weeks. Her body is in shock and traumatized. Hormonal imbalance is happening all over the place. She's got to come home and raise this screaming little child who just needs. And typically, a lot of men kind of leave it to the woman to do it because it's just what moms do. Not even taking into consideration all the things that I just said and why their role is so valuable and important to be there to support the mother of their child. And so in those moments where we talk about being a strong black woman or even just a strong woman, period, that's one of those moments where it's like, no, I need all hands on deck. I need you to be there for me. Now, that wasn't my experience.
But
like
you touched on a lot of things, and I think we kind of need to rewind a little bit because there were some things, not because there was anything that I disagreed with or that I want to argue with you about, but because I think there's layers to some of the things that you said that can be unpacked and expounded upon. Like, you talked about the women and them giving birth and going through all this physical trauma, emotional trauma as a result of that, and then being thrust in a situation back into your home life, your reality once you're free from the hospital, or even if you in most cases, if you had a natural birth, you're barely there for 24 hours or something. You know what I mean? You're thrust back in the home, and there's men out there who expect women to pick up where things left off, even though you just went through all of this physical upheaval, we'll say. But while that may be insensitive for men to have that expectation, it's also a precedent that's been set by the women that a lot of men have been raised by.
Yeah, but
you may have seen your mom do that. You may have seen your aunt do that. You may have seen your grandmother do that.
Humans are very capable of unlearning and learning. So precedence to me, no.
It's not that you're not capable of
precedence doesn't mean jack squat to me.
It's not a light switch.
Because, yes, it's not a light switch. But if your woman communicates to you, I need help.
Yeah, you should have the emotional capacity to hear that, understand what she's saying.
But I guess for me, on a very human level, How could you look at a woman come home from the hospital? She is weathered, worn, and tired, body beat up from having a baby, whether C-section or natural birth, bleeding still, trying to nurse, whether she's doing it breastfeeding, because that's not as easy as a lot of people seem to think that it is.
So it's not just put the mouth to it and the dog comes.
You've been there.
Out.
You know it's not. How you can look at her, go through all of that, and you not be moved on a human level to be like, what can I do to assist you?
I mean,
that line of thinking right there, or lack thereof, is why the idea of it's why my mom and everybody made such a big deal about how you supported me after having the kids. And I'll never forget writing a Facebook post and stating, while I appreciate everything you've done to support me and your sons, because you should, why are we patting you on the back for doing what you should be doing? Because nobody is patting me on the back for carrying babies for 39 weeks, having a major surgery. I know what the because is, but I'm trying to get people to think. Like, the idea that I've gone through all of this with my body and the baby got here and you're now stepping in because you're physically capable of doing so now because the baby's no longer residing inside me, incubating. Why are we applauding this?
Because it still places you in the minority to do these
let's
things.
stop applauding it so that it'll stop seeming like it's something, special, because it's not.
It's not that that we should stop applauding it, because I think everybody should be applauded for doing these things to some extent. I think what we need to do, though, is also normalize it. But the only way we normalize it is by seeing more of it. Like, I can recall when we had our first son and getting on public transportation with him strapped to my chest and women giving up their seats for me to sit down.
Doing that.
You know what I mean?
He'll be fine.
Like, people smiling at me and saying words of encouragement and congratulating me and, just things because it was foreign to them. Like, it was unique. And even in my experience doing that, and we're talking about, 14 years ago, going through this, like, I didn't run into other men out there who were doing the same. Like, I knew other men personally who were helping take care of the kids while their wife worked and stuff like that. But I didn't see other men who were working men, or in my case, professional men who were doing the same thing that I was doing. Like, what I was doing was it was almost unprecedented. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, sadly, that's true. And it will always be one of the reasons why I will forever set the standard of a good man by you. Because it was unprecedented for you to do what you did. But also because that, to me, is the makeup of a good husband, a good man, good child's father, because we weren't married at the time we had Jelani. But it's still frustrating on the same, because by the time we had Jackson, it wasn't our first merry-go-round. It was 8 years after having Jelani. But even the way you took on our daughter, even though she was not biologically
all
yours,
our kids,
you jumped in right in. You know what I mean?
I did the same thing for all of them.
But to me, that's how it should be. And that is, I would dare I say, where it started to occur to me. Back then, it just took me a while to digest it, that, like, I didn't have to do this all on my own, especially after coming out of not even a relationship, out of a situation where I was a single mom. So for me, that made that transition harder, because I was accustomed to making all of the decisions on my own. And I've said that before in previous podcasts, like, taking ownership of all the decision making, doing all of the things, because that had been my previous experience. You were the first man I had been with who, I allowed close enough to my daughter to even get opportunity to get to know her or raise her, but also in integrated into my life enough where decision making was now becoming more of a partnership versus me being Miss Independent. And it took a while to get there, obviously.
Well, one of the things I want to say about it too, like I think we got to go by your circumstances, right? Because traditionally, part of the reason why that hasn't been the male's role, or a male hasn't been in a position to do those things, is because men have been the ones, in a lot of cases, getting up for work first. You know what I mean? Out the door first. Gotta go to this job that starts at this hour. You think about a lot of men back in the day when they were doing blue collar jobs, you know what I mean?
But that's my thing.
But it evolved. Things have evolved with the time, but still, there's still a large number of men who work blue collar jobs, and those are oftentimes jobs where you need to be to work early. You don't have time to prepare the kids and drop them off at daycare. Like, a lot of times these things have fallen to women. We were in a position where I was fortunate to have the flexibility in my schedule. I had the ability to drive. I worked in locations where it made more sense for me to drop the kids off versus you.
Yes and no. Like, I'm going to call cap on some of that. Not you personally, but like, even if we're going from the strength of the man getting up first, even if that's the case, what he should be asking himself is, in what way can I assist my wife or my child's mother with making sure that this goes more fluidly for her, because once I leave to go out this door, I won't be able to help her. So even if I have to go out the house early and leave for the day, have I washed bottles? Have I packed a baby bag? Did I make sure burp cloths were available? Did I make sure that there was enough diapers stocked, formula stocked? What things can I do in order to assist my wife, child's mother, despite the fact that I may traditionally work a blue-collar job and be able to go out the house? That is my whole point.
But the point I'm making is that, one, we need to be aware. We need to let people adjust to their circumstances and do what's needed for their circumstances. It shouldn't be black. It's not black and white. And that's what I was trying to say at the beginning, like when you were saying how women want to lean into their femininity and all this stuff. Like, that's true for all of us though. Like, you said when you come home, you want to be vulnerable. You want to be able to be pampered. We all deserve that, whether male or female. Like, a man should be able to come home and enjoy those same freedoms. We should be able to turn off that.
Pause. That may be true, but we're specifically speaking to women right now, not men.
Well, as a man, I can't speak about it without
but you
incorporating it for all of us.
And here's why. Because something does not have to inherently include you to talk about something else. And this is also, to me, part of the problem by having these conversations is that if we're going to do that, well, us too, it's like that should go without saying. But right now we're speaking specifically to women. If you want to have a conversation about men at a future date, we can do that. But right now we are speaking specifically to women.
Okay, that's fine. But I also think that you need to address both to some extent, because if you don't, the impression to me is that it becomes one-sided. And
it's not one-sided. It shouldn't be. To have a conversation. That's like, it's Cancer Awareness Month. And that would be like AIDS patients, thyroid patients, and other patients saying, but what about thyroid disease? What about AIDS? What about HIV? What about preeclampsia? Like,
but that's why all of these things have their moment.
Let this conversation have its moment. This is part of the reason that I feel like it makes it so hard to have conversations because people feel like, oh, well, what about me? Well, like, it doesn't take away from what is going on with y'all. It's okay to have a moment to focus on just the women right now. Because that's what the topic of this conversation is the women. If you want to have a conversation next week discussing this from the man's point of view, do that. We can have a conversation centered on men. But right now, we're speaking specifically to epiphany revelation that's occurred for me personally as a woman within the context of our relationship. And this conversation of women needing to be able to feel feminine and lean into that and not feel like they have to be these strong, independent women, especially if they're in relationships. That is what we're discussing.
Well, I'm not for that anyway. Like, strong, independent women have messed up good relationships for women several times. Like, because some women are too busy trying to assert themselves versus.
But do you understand where that comes from?
I mean, I think we talked about where that comes from, and as we were breaking things down, I think I talked about where that comes from when I was speaking.
So it's one of those things where it's like this is going to require breaking this cycle. If you've been conditioned to believe that you're going to have to do it on your own at some point, to me, and I can't speak to this because I'm not a single woman. But just from those of my friends who are single, who are dating and looking, trying to find adequate partnership has been really difficult for them. Because trying to find a man that is going to meet them where they're at in terms of standards that they've set for themselves, financially, economically, or whatever the case may be, there's a disparity there. And that creates this. Now, for me personally, my respect for a man has very little to do with his affluence or lack thereof. I'm not against blue collar men, but I'm also not like I won't lie, like I'm not some master's educated woman, so I don't. Maybe it feels different when you're on that side of things. For me, I've never cared. Like, to me, I don't need you to have a matching doctorate or an engineering degree for you to treat me properly.
You don't care. You haven't cared traditionally because you have never been in a situation where maybe when you were younger, it was like that. But, like, for the most part, you haven't been in a situation where you were in a household where you were the primary breadwinner in a relationship. You know what I mean? Like, where you were making 50 and the dude you was dating was making 25. You know what I mean?
That's not necessarily true. What I will say is you're the only man I've ever lived with.
But that's
honestly,
what I'm
from that vantage point, no, because you've always made more money than me. However, I've definitely dated and have been with men who made less than me.
But that's different. I think that changes things because...
Well, what I'm saying is this. Even while I was dating men who made less than me, it was never so much about what can he do for me. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I've had men who made less than me still, do their thing to make sure that I felt valued and appreciated. Like, so to me, they're going to work within the means of what they have if they really want you.
But
so that wasn't an issue for me ever because I didn't care. And that's just the bottom line for me. I did not care. As long as you could bring something to the table, that's all I cared about. But as long as I had relief, like, that was all I cared about, like, support.
But that's not what I'm talking about, though. Like, and I was trying to get to a point, right? Like, because of something you said earlier, which was something else that I heard and I thought needed to be somewhat unpacked when you talked about the women who don't feel comfortable with their man being able to hold it down while they take a mental health sabbatical of whatever extent. Because if you're a woman who's a professional woman who's making good money and you're you're in the exact same situation you described. You're with a man who satisfies your needs in every way and may not be your financial equal. If you live a lifestyle that he can't support, well, no, hold on. I didn't do that because I want to actually taste this. But if you live a lifestyle that he can't support on his own, that does make it difficult for you to say, like, yo, I'm going to take FMLA and take this number of months off from work, and it's on you to hold it down. Like, and,
all right, so is hypergamy wrong?
What?
Hypergamy?
Let's see.
Hypergamy is about
we need to
dating
take a shot for that. You gonna say hypergamy?
All right,
I don't
take
know.
a
I've
shot.
never heard. Hold on. Before, this isn't really like taking a shot.
I know we're gonna taste.
We want to taste this. And
we're taking a taste break.
Yes, we're taking a taste break.
This is Malam and Green whiskey. It smells cinnamony. It has a sweet smell to it.
Let's see what it says on.
Like vanilla is in here somewhere.
So this says triple cask, a blend of straight bourbon whiskeys. Now, these people was actually cool enough to give me
almondy.
She getting in her bag over there.
Can I?
I'm not mad at it. I am not mad at it. I do want to go. There's a Groupon to go to a distillery, and there's actually.
It tastes like none of the things that I just said.
No, it definitely doesn't. It definitely doesn't. It tastes
like whiskey.
It tastes like pop whiskey. Like, it tastes like I need a rocking chair and some stubble, and I used to work in a still mill.
I might have the stubble going at this point because the hormones after surgery are crazy.
This is strong. Like, if you want a strong whiskey. Not necessarily.
I mean, it does smell really pleasant. I won't lie to you, but it tastes very.
It's not
like he said.
Yeah, it's not. This ain't the smoothest, but it's not. It wasn't harsh going down or anything. Well, not for me. It's a matter of opinion. You gotta.
I'm a lady.
You gotta do this. Do that like Martin.
My chest burn. Oh,
not me. This is pretty good. Let me give you some sour mix on that.
You do that.
But
I'll be honest, y'all. Like,
it's dating. We were talking about dating.
The days of me just trashing liquor are over. Okay, I need it to taste good for me. It don't taste good to me. That's one of those things that just like it tastes like alcohol. It tastes
liquor.
Like liquor. Okay,
liquor.
If you like the taste of alcohol, this is for you. If you like the effects of alcohol, but you like the taste of a little sour mix,
like the
do
taste
that.
Of liquor. Like, that's for people who like liquor with a K.
I'm gonna say right now, he just put sour mix in for me because y'all, I love a good whiskey sour, and it still tastes like liquor. Okay.
This is a departure
sweating, and I'll never sweat.
This is a departure from Rich and Rare. Like, Rich and Rare is
rich and rare.
And we get the Rich and Rare Reserve. So not even the baseline Rich and Rare.
This tastes like it came out of a cornfield in Kentucky. Okay? Somewhere in somebody's little shed.
Well, that's what whiskey is about. Whiskey and
let me just say,
and I
am not accustomed.
And I've been to a few whiskey. I've had a few whiskey tastings, and this is the first one that was by a private distillery. Like, the other ones have been from like name brand.
Or this in somebody's backyard.
Well, this is a woman speaking. This is actually dope because this is a women's own distillery.
Hold on,
that.
Look.
Oh my God! What you think, you grew chest hair that fast?
I did.
This is
you gotta look. You gotta feel it.
Malam and Green is a woman owned.
It's hair on my chest. Look.
This is all right. No, all right. zip it up. Yes, I can see very well. The light is great in here right now.
I'm just playing, y'all. So here, I just wanted to make us sweat a little bit. Like, he thought I was about to unzip it all on camera.
No,
I'm not.
I definitely didn't.
You got a little nervous, though.
No, I didn't. I was just telling you need to relax. But anyway, Malam and Green is actually a women's own distillery. So I think it's
these are women who have been through some things.
appropriate to go along with this topic, leaning into your femininity, because these are definitely some strong women who are making this whiskey, but they're still allowed to lean into their femininity when they want to.
I love it.
Now,
I love that for us.
I don't know what that word was that you said. I forgot it.
Hypergamy.
Hypergamy. I wanted to say
that
hyperbole.
is the act of dating up financially. It's been a topic of discussion. Of course, the late, not so great Kevin Samuels touched on it. It's something that I happen to be friends with and associate with many women who are educationally higher level, and as such they have jobs. You trying to get me drunk?
Ever.
Sport words in my class. I think you're trying to do something, y'all. But I have a friend who works in government contracts and has a business that she runs on the side. Have another good friend who works for NASA in governance and does other things besides the IT aspect of things. I have friends who have masters in educations and social, sociology, things like that. And so to watch these women and all of them are single. All of them are single. Some have children. But something that one of my friends told me is, at this point, she does not want to date a blue collar man. And she said it's nothing personal, but I feel as if I need someone at this point who can match me financially. Well, now, for me, I am considered a person who has benefited from hypergamy because technically I dated up someone who was more financially stable than me. Now, he was more established in his career than I was at the time we started dating. Over the years, I've been able to get where I needed to go in terms of my education so that I can be where I desire to be salary-wise. But for them, it's been hard for them to find men who are where they're at. And so when we hear these conversations about women benefit more from hypergamy, I'm inclined to believe that a lot of times, just based on the experiences of my friends, like, some of these men are benefiting from hypergamy.
But there's some context that needs to be added to that, because I think one of the things you said is some of these women don't want to date blue collar men because they can't match them financially. There are several blue collar positions that can match them financially.
Oh, for sure, but it depends on where you're at. And let's be real here. We're obviously talking about, it's not just the type of job, it's the status of where they're at in their position.
The other thing about that too is I think age is a very important factor in all of this. At a younger age, you're much more likely to be tolerant of somebody who needs to get their stuff together, so to speak, who may need to go back to school to improve their earning capabilities, may need to get a certification or invest some time as an apprentice or something like that before they're able to earn in the low to mid six figures or something like that. So age is an important factor in that. We're talking about women who are, for the most part, on the other side of 35. And
not necessarily.
They're in their mid 30s.
We have some who are in their mid 30s, some who are definitely just reaching their 30s, honestly. And some who are not in their 30s at all yet. But I do think age plays a factor, but I think one of the things statistically is that black women are more likely to be educated in a certain way versus black men of their age. And that's not me downing anybody.
No.
This is just
The statistics show that because there's a lot more black women with higher education than there are black men.
And black women actually in this country have the highest education standard, or statistically speaking, have the higher educations, despite what it gets painted to be. And I think because of that, it does make a gap in what many would deem dating eligibility. I don't always necessarily, but again, I'm married already, so this doesn't apply to me. I don't necessarily agree all the time, but in the same breath, I can understand a woman wanting to be able to feel financially secure in her relationship.
I think we all can understand that.
I also think that. But I think
with age,
I've been able to be that, you know what I mean, with you. So it makes it a little bit different for me and my vantage point.
It's different for you at your vantage point, but I also think with age, these things evolve, like on both sides, right? Because the women have trouble. Well, I'll take.
No, I'm gonna drink it.
So the women have trouble finding men to meet them on their level as they get older, for a couple of reasons, but one of the most obvious reasons is that those good men that are capable of meeting them on their level are
not good
snatched up or
not good men.
Getting their life. You know what I'm saying? Like
and
they're out
the
here
part
enjoying their status as high value men, so to speak. You know what I mean? For lack of a better word, like the men who are good ones and aren't claimed know that they're good ones, and they're being told that they're good ones, and that why are you still single?
Here's where it gets tricky. Not necessarily tricky, but here is where human flaw comes into play, right? Everybody has the right to preference, correct?
Of course.
You have the right to like what you like, right?
Even if you like trash.
So even if somebody hits all the marks for you financially, socially, economically, you may deny them because they're not physically, aesthetically what you're looking for. And this goes for both men and women.
Very much so.
So oftentimes when I hear the dating stories of people, I kind of chuckle to myself, whether it's coming from men or women. I've heard that I don't like bigger people. Yeah. And I believe that's a preference that you can have, but you might be missing your prince or your queen because they're a little fluffier than what you expect.
The moral of this story is to date more fat people.
I wasn't saying that. It's some
fat niggas out there that will keep your jaws warm, fed, and satisfied. In more ways than one.
Advertising.
And the same goes for y'all cats out there that want to knock down these big joints so and then be like, yeah, but she is everything, but I can't wife that. I need to have this dime piece on my arm. Like y'all niggas, y'all playing yourself.
Goes for those, and it's not just about fat people, but you may be somebody who's like, I don't want a woman who's got long, I don't want a bald-headed woman. She needs to have long flowing tresses, or he need to have a beard that connects.
Y'all corny for that.
It could be
all y'all.
So, well, hey, I don't knock anybody for their preferences. It's the one thing I refuse to do because I have my own.
If something like, if everything else is hitting and you let hair stand in your way, you're corny for that.
Right to preference.
If you let something like, now unless it's something like you don't want to date somebody because they're losing their hair and have patches in it and refuse to do something to mask that, you're entitled to that.
Why do they have to mask it? That'll be a conversation for next week's
because
episode.
I don't want to date a man that's balding. I want a man who, if he ain't got a full head of hair, I want him to at least act like he's a man with a full head of hair. Get these lace fronts. Get this spray on your joint. Whatever it is. Put the pencil to it. Whatever you need to do. Whatever is going to make the opposite
and like
sex
I said,
happier.
That'll be...
You know what I'm saying?
See, this we're going to murky waters. But that'll be a discussion for next week.
But there's people who want that. Because clearly these cats is bagging joints.
My whole point is these what seem like minor factors to me
Corny.
are major factors for both men and women.
They can be a major factor.
And to me, that is a
corny.
lot of the reasons why folks still be single and searching and looking.
Yeah,
because they're letting certain things, because then they're like, well, why do I have to compromise? And I feel like
chips.
in order for you to get what you're looking for,
Kellogg's,
you're going to have to compromise something. You just have to decide what it is you're going to compromise.
And speaking of that, like, I'm a firm believer in the 80-20 rule and several facets of relationships. Like, you're never going to get 100% of what you want. You need to figure out what's the 20%
that you can
live without. And once you have accepted that, that's when you're going to be able to find the mate that is appropriate for you.
Now, I'll be honest in saying, when you and I started dating, I didn't have like this astronomically long list of things, but I was also younger. I honestly developed my desires over time, like in experience, me deciding like this is kind of what I need in my relationship and in my life. It just so happens that you were able to work with me to meet that.
I think that,
and vice versa, and I try to do the same. I know a lot of people don't want to do that though. What I will say is this: the 20% that I'm going without is negligible, to be quite honest. And the things that would fall under the 20% category are like, this nigga leaves his boots in the middle of the floor still 17 years later and does not care, or doesn't care if I fall into the toilet seat.
I know y'all tired.
It doesn't care if I fall into the toilet seat at 3 o'clock in the morning, because putting the toilet seat down is too much to ask. To me,
my room big now.
You know,
not tripping over the
those are things that it's like, does the good outweigh the bad? Yeah, it does.
3 pair of shoes surrounding my perimeter right now, and
yes, because I was trying on shoes this morning before work. I usually do it in my office. I just walked out here early this morning and came home and got right back to work.
But
so my bad.
I think you made a good point though about how that list for you evolved over time, because I think that's a real thing for all of us. Like,
I think what people gotta understand is you're not gonna be the same person 5 years from now. So I feel like those lists naturally evolve anyway as you get older, as you experience things, whether you're in a relationship or not.
And I've never been one that had a hard and fast list, period.
You did. Like, it was, I gotta have AP because she's so fire.
Eventually. But my list was really probably like a handful of things, like more so
I'm listening.
appearance, you know, and
what
appearance.
What was your appearance requirements?
Was like about attraction. That honestly, like, I have to be physically attracted to you.
Are you physically
and
attracted
it wasn't
to me?
like, it wasn't about size.
Clearly,
we have 2 children and have made several others over the years, but I need to be attracted to you, whatever that means for me. Like, it definitely doesn't have anything to do with how big or small, short or tall you are.
And he means that,
or
like,
how
just
dark you are.
so
y'all
light understand, like, this is a man who never batted an eye when my weight changed. And I know I typically don't like to give men credit for liking fat women, because I don't believe that should be a thing. But I also know most men who like you thick or even a little fluffy.
Let's not say most men. There's a
if they had been with their wife while she hit 500 pounds, a lot of men would have lost their mind. And I know that to be true based upon conversations that I've seen in these support groups that I've been in for weight loss surgery and things like that. The reaction of people's mates. This is a man who never batted an eye when I was being the hardest on myself. He was loving on me and never once was like, I need you to get smaller. I need you to get bigger. It was never like a one way or other. It was just like, Did your hip work? Can you put it in the air still? Okay, cool. How can I make this comfortable for you? Like, it was never an issue of
giving them too much.
So I would definitely like to just say I appreciate that. That meant the world to me, that you never made me feel as if I had to change one way or another. Every change or decision I made was based upon what I needed for myself.
But when you love somebody like that, you accept them for better or for worse. Like, that's literally what a lot of people's marriage vows say. But for me, like, again, coming back to where we started, like, the list was really simple. Like, I had to be attracted to you, I had to enjoy your company, I had to enjoy your conversation.
Enjoy my company.
And yes, of course, we had to be able to laugh together, most importantly. And I had to be able to be myself, which is kind of like full circle. Like, to me, when we come back to this topic of leaning into your femininity, like, I had to be able to shed the skin of who I am outside of the home when I come into the home, and be comfortable knowing that you're going to accept me as that person. And I wanted to be with somebody who could do the same. Like, I've been in relationships with people who never did drop that hard exterior, who were cold in that regard, who were hard in that regard. And that is, it can put you on an island in a relationship where you don't feel like this is a partnership. This is you over here and me over here. And sometimes we get together and spend some time in the middle, but then we go back to our corners. Like, that's not a healthy relationship. It's not an enjoyable relationship. And it can be frustrating, and it's probably why I'm not with those people anymore. Like, it's important that we're allowed to be our true selves. And I'll say, like, A was the first person who I was able to be my true self with 100% of the time, because I felt like I did need to hold facets of myself back to be deemed as acceptable in the eyes of others. And one of the things that I appreciated the most, which made this a lasting relationship, is that I was able to be who I wanted to be around her. You know, like, in the world, I do have to put up my defenses and my guards and be a harder, more callous person and have a different outlook. When I'm home, I need to be able to drop that and decompress and really let it all hang out and be who I really am. And I think we all deserve that, male, female, whatever, but especially women. Like, this topic was women. Women deserve that, because our black women catch hell. They have been defenseless. They've had to fight their own battles too often. They haven't been supported by the men in our society, and they are very quick to drop everything to support the men in our society. So as men, especially if we consider ourselves true men, we do need to be more defensive of them. And for all you men who have daughters, you definitely that should be something near and dear to your heart, because that you have a daughter that you're raising to be somebody's partner one day. You want to protect her at all costs.
Facts.
You have a mom, you have a grandmother, you have an aunt, you have a sister. You want to protect them at all costs. You don't want them being violated by the world, by friends, by whatever. So, like, yeah, let them be delicate. Let them be pampered. Let them be treated like a weaker vessel in the most positive of senses. Like, they're fine china. We want to put them on a pedestal and keep them from being damaged at all costs, because they're valuable and important to us.
Amen. So, of course, if you're watching this back on YouTube, drop a comment. Let us know your thoughts on allowing women or even promoting or supporting women leading into their femininity and taking off that strong, independent role that we seem to take on. Of course, drop your comments on Instagram if you're catching the clip there. And shout out to the family over on Anchor and on Spotify, wherever you guys are listening to us. And share, because we want y'all to support us as we continue this podcasting journey. It has been a pleasure, per usual, to be able to sit and chat with y'all, and we will catch y'all next episode.
Shout out to all the whiskey sippers, all the whiskey sour sippers, and shout out to Malam and Green. Maybe one day y'all will send me a real bottle and not these half pints that I received.
Well, we're not mad at the half pint.
We're not mad at it because they gonna go down.
It went down.
Peace, y'all. We'll see y'all next episode.
Bye.